The War Council had been unanimous. For the first time in 3,000 cycles, every single member of the Kalthoran sovereignty agreed on something. And that something was this: humanity needed to be erased from existence. I should probably introduce myself. My name is Vekalar, and I was the intelligence analyst who first recommended we send, well, let's just say a modest force to deal with these upstart primates. 9,900 warships. The largest battle fleet ever assembled in galactic history. Ships that could crack planets, weapons that could boil oceans, shields that had never not once been penetrated by enemy fire. Overkill? Perhaps. But after watching what happened to the Zarn Collective, the Morthian Empire, and the Kelva Confederacy, we weren't taking any chances. See, humans had this annoying habit of winning battles they had absolutely no business surviving. The Zarn sent 200 ships to claim Earth's moon as a mining colony. Guess how many came back? 0. Not one. The Morthians tried a diplomatic approach which somehow ended with their ambassador being, well, convinced to sign a treaty that gave humanity 3-star systems. And the Kelva, they tried to blockade Earth, tried being the operative word. But we were different. We were Kalthorans. We had conquered 47 species, absorbed 23 civilizations, and never not even once lost a war. We were going to show these mammals what real military power looked like. The fleet launched from our home system with enough fanfare to wake the dead. Emperor Salth himself gave the send-off speech. Grand Admiral Mexlon commanded from the flagship Eternal Dominion, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field. I was there in the command center, watching the view screens as we jumped through hyperspace. The trip took 18 solar days. 18 days of absolute confidence. The crew was relaxed, almost bored. Some of the soldiers were taking bets on how quickly Earth would surrender. The lowest guess was 4 hours. The highest was 2 days, and that guy got laughed at for being pessimistic. We emerged from hyperspace, at the edge of Earth's solar system, and let me tell you, the sight was magnificent. 9,900 warships spreading across the void like a metallic plague. Our sensors immediately began scanning for human defenses, and that's when things started getting weird. Sir, the sensor officer, a young Kalthoran named Plexta, looked confused. I'm not detecting any orbital defense platforms. Admiral Mexelon's faceplates flared with satisfaction. They know they cannot win. Humanity surrenders before we even fire a shot. Prepare a transmission demanding their Waits's confusion deepened. Sir, I'm detecting something. Multiple somethings, small craft. Very small. Coming from everywhere. I leaned over to check her display. She was right. Hundreds, no, thousands of tiny signatures were emerging from the asteroid belt, from the moons of the outer planets, from what looked like empty space itself. Fighters. Admiral Mexelon scoffed. They send fighters against our armada? This is insulting. But here's the thing about humans that we should have researched better. They don't do anything the normal way. While we built bigger and bigger ships, adding more and more armor, they went the opposite direction. Smaller, faster, meaner. The first wave hit us before we even registered them as a threat. One moment, our port flank was secure. The next moment, 17 of our destroyers simply ceased existing. No explosion, no warning, just there 1 second, gone the next. What in the void was that? The Admiral's calm demeanor cracked slightly. Analysis coming in now, I reported, fingers flying across my console. The human craft are equipped with weapons that generate localized spatial anomalies. They're not destroying our ships. They're compressing the space they occupy down to nothing. That's impossible. That technology would require another wave. 23 more ships blinked out of existence. Evasive maneuvers. Mexlon roared. Return fire. All batteries open fire. No, did we fire? The void lit up with enough energy to illuminate the entire solar system. Particle beams, plasma cannons, missile swarms that could obliterate moons. Surely, some of it would hit. It didn't. The human fighters moved like nothing we'd ever seen. They didn't just dodge, they seemed to predict where our weapons would be before we fired them. Later, much later, I learned why their pilots were plugged directly into their craft's computer systems. Human brains and machine processors working as one, reflexes measured in microseconds. We had superior firepower. They had superior everything else. Fleet Formation Omega-7. The Admiral commanded. desperately trying to maintain control. Concentrate fire on grid coordinates. A new signal appeared on our sensors. This one was different, bigger, coming from Earth itself. Sir? Plex's voice was barely a whisper. You need to see this. On the main view screen, rising from Earth's atmosphere like a predator emerging from its den, came a single ship, not big by our standards, maybe twice the size of our heavy cruisers, but the energy readings made no sense. Hail them, Mexilon ordered. The view screen flickered. A human appeared. Female, I think, though I still have trouble telling them apart. Dark skin, short hair, and eyes that held absolutely zero fear. Behind her, I could see what looked like a command center. But wrong somehow, too organic, too integrated. This is Captain Williams of the Terran defense ship Prometheus, she said. Her voice calm, too calm. You have entered Earth's sovereign space with hostile intent. You have approximately 60 seconds to begin withdrawal procedures before we consider you an active threat. Admiral Mexilon actually laughed, a mistake in retrospect. Human, you are outnumbered 9,900 to 1. Surrender now, and we will make your extinction swift and 45 seconds, Williams interrupted, checking something off screen. Also, quick correction, you're not outnumbered 9,900 to 1 anymore. Current count shows you down to 9,642 vessels. Our fighters are quite efficient. I checked our casualty reports. She was right. We'd lost 258 ships in less than 10 minutes. Last chance, Williams continued. 30 seconds. Fire everything at that ship. Mexilon screamed. Erase it from existence. We did. Every ship in range locked onto the Prometheus and fired simultaneously. Enough firepower to vaporize a small planet hit that single human vessel. And it caught it. All of it. The ship's shields didn't just absorb the energy, they seemed to drink it in, glowing brighter and brighter until, time's up, Williams said with what I can only describe as a predatory smile. Prometheus, you are weapons free. Show them what we learned from the Zarn. The human ship fired once. Just once. A beam of pure white light lanced out from the Prometheus and swept across our fleet like a scythe through wheat. Ships didn't explode. They simply stopped being. Metal, shields, crew, all converted to their component atoms in an instant. 3,000 ships gone. In a single shot. The silence in our command center was absolute. You could have heard a microorganism breathe. 3,000 ships, crewed by over 2 million Calthorans, erased from existence in less time than it takes to blink. Admiral Mexilon's faceplates had gone completely pale, cycling through colors I didn't even know our species could produce. Retreat, he whispered. Sir. I wasn't sure I'd heard correctly. Retreat. He screamed it this time. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump scatter pattern now. But here's another thing about humans we should have researched. They're really good at predicting what you're going to do next. Probably comes from spending thousands of years fighting each other before they reach the stars. As our ships began charging their hyperspace drives, those little human fighters suddenly stopped attacking. They just stopped, pulled back, formed a perimeter around our fleet. Why aren't they finishing us? Plexta asked, her voice shaking. Captain Williams appeared on our view screen again, uninvited this time. She'd somehow hacked into our communications network. Because, she said, as if answering Plexta directly, dead enemies can't deliver messages. But before you run home with your tails between your legs or whatever you people have, let me give you a little history lesson. She gestured, and data began flooding our computers. Battle reports, tactical analyses, sensor recordings. You mentioned the Zarn Collective, Williams continued, leaning back in her command chair. 200 ships, you said. Want to know why none of them made it home? It wasn't luck. It wasn't even our weapons. It was arrogance. They thought having bigger guns meant they'd already won. Sound familiar? More data streamed across my console. I watched in horror as the recordings showed Zarn warships being systematically dismantled by human tactics I couldn't even comprehend. The Morthians, Williams continued. At least they were smart enough to talk first. Unfortunately for them, they tried to negotiate from a position of strength they didn't actually have. We showed them our orbital manufacturing capabilities, our fleet production numbers, and the specifications on our new quantum disruptor technology. They decided very quickly that diplomacy was preferable to extinction. Admiral Mexilon found his voice. You dare to lecture us? You primitives who only achieved faster than light travel 3 generations ago. Williams smiled again. That same predatory expression. 3 generations, yes. Want to know what we accomplished in that time? We went from barely reaching our own moon to building ships that can fold space, manipulate gravity, and convert matter to energy at will. Know why? Because we've been at war with ourselves for our entire history. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategic principle we have was forged in the fires of fighting the most dangerous, creative, stubborn opponents in the known universe. Other humans. She stood up, walking closer to the camera. You Calthorans conquered 47 species over 3,000 years. Congratulations. You know what we call that? Tuesday. In the last century alone, we fought 17 civil wars, 3 global conflicts, and countless smaller engagements. We've bombed ourselves, gassed ourselves, starved ourselves. We've done every horrible thing you can imagine to each other. And we're still here, still learning, still adapting, still getting better at the one thing we're truly exceptional at: surviving. Our hyperspace drives were almost charged, just a few more seconds. And that brings me to today's lesson, Williams said, her voice dropping to something almost conversational. You brought 9,900 ships to kill us. Know how many ships Earth has in our defense fleet? She paused for effect. 12. Total, including the Prometheus. Everything else you've been fighting? Those are civilian vessels. Converted cargo haulers, private yachts, mining craft. We put out a call 18 hours ago asking for volunteers to help defend Earth. 73,000 ships answered. Not military. Just people who decided they'd rather die fighting than wait to be conquered. My stomach, all 4 of them dropped. 73,000 civilian ships had done this much damage. But wait, Williams held up a finger. I haven't told you the best part. Those quantum disruptors I mentioned. The ones that make your ships stop existing. We only installed them last week. They're still experimental. We weren't even sure they'd work. So, thanks for being our test subjects. Admiral Mexilon made a choking sound. Your drives are almost charged, Williams observed. In about 15 seconds you're going to jump away. When you do, you're going to go back to your empire and tell them exactly what happened here. You're going to show them these recordings. And you're going to deliver a message. What message? I asked, finding my own voice. That humanity is willing to coexist peacefully with any species that approaches us with respect and honesty. We'll trade, share technology, explore the galaxy together. But if you come at us with conquest in mind, if you threaten our worlds, our people, our way of life, her eyes hardened, then you're going to find out exactly how creative we can get when it comes to killing things. The Prometheus fired again, but this time the beam split into thousands of smaller lances, each one targeting a specific ship in our fleet, not to destroy, to mark. Every single vessel suddenly had a bright red target painted on its hull by that beam, visible for light years in every direction. That's a quantum tag, Williams explained. Permanent. Every ship we just marked is now broadcasting its location to every human vessel in known space, forever. She wanted to make an example of us. Congratulations. We just made examples of you. Every species in the galaxy is going to know that the mighty Calthoran sovereignty came here with the biggest fleet in history, and we sent you home like scolded children. You said you'd let us leave, Mexilon protested weakly. And I am. But I never said you'd leave with your dignity intact. Hyperspace windows opening in 5, 4, 3, 2, we jumped. All 6,642 remaining ships scattered across a dozen different vectors, running for our lives from a species that had been in space for less than a standard century. The journey home took 19 days of silence, 19 days of shame, 19 days of watching our marked ships broadcast our humiliation to every listening post in the galaxy. When we arrived back at the Calthoran homeworld, Emperor Salth was waiting. The look on his face when we delivered Captain Williams' message, when we showed in the recordings, when we explained how civilian craft had destroyed more than 3,000 military vessels, I'll never forget it. What do you recommend? He asked quietly, his voice devoid of its usual authority. Admiral Mexilon, who had aged what looked like several cycles in just a few weeks, spoke carefully. That we never ever go near Earth again, and that we send an ambassador, a real one, with a peace treaty, and an apology. The Emperor nodded slowly. Make it so. As for me, I was reassigned to a new position, Director of Human Studies. My job now is to learn everything possible about these terrifying, brilliant, insane primates. To understand how they think, how they fight, how they survive. And every single day, I thank the void that they're willing to coexist peacefully. Because after seeing what they can do when they're angry, I really don't want to see what they're capable of when they're truly trying to win. The reports keep coming in. Other species, ones who didn't get the memo, trying their luck with humanity. None of them fare any better than we did. Some fare worse. Humanity asked for peace. Most of us were smart enough to give it to them. The rest? Well, they learned the same lesson we did, just with fewer survivors to tell the tale. 9,900 ships. The greatest armada ever assembled, beaten by 12 military vessels, and 73,000 civilians with improvised weapons. Yeah, we really should have done more research.